Well, I can't believe we're almost in August because that means football is almost here. The Jets and Giants reported to training camp last week. So how are things looking for the teams as we head into the 2025 season? Here to break it down is our friend John Schmeelk. John, thanks so much for coming on today. Hope all is well, my friend.
Same with you, Mike. Always good to talk to you. Football season is here.
Just as the Mets are getting good again, I have to pay attention to football now. So a few things to get to, but let's start with the Jets and head coach Aaron Glenn. How does he seem to be adjusting to his new role, and how will he be different than Robert Saleh?
Well, on the other hand, if you're a Yankee fan, I think you're very happy that football season is here with the way they've played the last month.
That is true, too, yes.
Absolutely. Look, I think Aaron Glenn, I don't think Robert Saleh was a bad coach. I want to be clear about that, and I think we saw the team play worse after he got let go last year, to be quite honest with you. I think Aaron Glenn brings a level of energy, especially as a former player, a level of intensity, his ability to talk to players and interact with them and relate to them, I think is something he brings to the field that's really strong. And much like Robert Saleh, I think he's a really good defensive tactician. You saw when he was at the Lions last year, he's somebody that even when they had all their injuries on that side of the ball, he was able to get his team to play at a fairly high level. The Jets will play a lot of man-to-man defense this year on defense rather than zone, which is what they were primarily under Saleh. So I think those are some of the key differences. But I think until we get into the season and when we see how this starts going and starts looking, you're not gonna know much about new teams, new coaches until they face some adversity and see how they handle it.
Now, I thought this was interesting. Justin Fields dislocated his toe last week. He's returned on a limited basis, so it's not a total bummer. But as a Jets fan, it was hard not to think of the Aaron Rodgers injury. Jets quarterback gets injured so early in the season. Hopefully, it's as minor as they're making it out to be. Should Jets fans feel good about Fields as he takes over for Rodgers?
Yeah, I was out on the practice field here for the Giants when the Fields news broke, and someone told me to look at my social media. I glanced at it, and it was utter panic for everybody. And look, I understand. Jet fans have been on the wrong side of some of these quarterback injuries over the years. You want to go back as far back when Vinny Testaverde tore his Achilles the year after the Jets got to the AFC title game. So I get it, but I think they're fortunate that it looks like he's going to be okay. You never want to see a lower body injury for a quarterback that uses his athleticism and his legs like Justin Fields does. I think he'll be okay. I think you're still waiting to see how much he develops as a quarterback. I don't think he's gotten to where he needs to be be considered a top half of the league starter quite yet. You hope as he continues to get older, he gets a little bit better, and you'll see if he can do that with the Jets this year. But I think if the Jets can utilize his athleticism and size in the quarterback run game to really complement which is a really good stable of running backs they have there with Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis, I think that will make up for some of his lack of consistency in the pass game.
Now, John, on the whole, what are the Jets expected to be good at this year that maybe they were weak at last year? At the very least, how will their plan of attack be different this year?
Well, I think I talked about on defense already in terms of they're going to play a lot more man than they did last year. I think they hope that their pass rush will be a little bit more consistent as Will McDonald is there for another year. He's another year older. You hope he can step in and do a nice job. I think, they've had a lot of youth on the offensive line, on the offensive side of the ball. So I think as their young guys get better, I think you expect that offensive line, Fashion is going to be heading into a second year. You hope, Elijah Vera Tucker is healthy for the whole year, that group continues to improve, and that becomes a strength of their team when in the past it's been a weakness, I think. So I think as those guys get older and they mature, and it takes offensive linemen a year or two sometimes, I think that could really be a strength of their game on offense. And, last year with Aaron Rodgers, I think they really tended to be more of a passing team. I would guess this year with again, I mentioned their running backs and that young offensive line, they're more of a run, play action, and then find Garrett Wilson in the passing game type of team.
Now, as one veteran quarterback left New York in Aaron Rodgers, another one entered. Russell Wilson joined the Giants heading into his age 36 season. You have to figure anything would be better than Daniel Jones. How did Wilson look during the first Giants training camp?
Wilson is your ultimate floor raiser. He's a guy that you know what you're going to get out of him. He's not going to turn the ball over. He's going to make good decisions. I've never seen one player be so universally praised for just his leadership and his personality. The whole team loves him, and he's brought a level of positivity and energy to this team that I haven't seen here in quite a while, to be honest with you. Now, none of that's going to matter if he doesn't hit the field and play well. So that'll be the most important thing. We're not going to have a feel for that until we get to the regular season. But I think he's somebody that's going to protect the ball, not turn it over. He's very willing and able and good at throwing the ball down the field to make some big plays. He's going to pepper Malik Neighbors a lot with the ball. And the one thing he needs to do a better job of, I think, is avoid sacks. And if he can do those three things and continue to do those things, and I think he'll be in pretty good shape. And the Giants will have probably the highest level of quarterback play they've had in a while. That doesn't mean this is prime Russell Wilson taking the Seahawks to a Super Bowl level of play, but I think he's certainly a guy that will be an improvement over what they've had here the last couple of years when in aggregate, between the starters and the backups, the Giants probably had some of the worst quarterback play in football the last 2 seasons.
Now, you mentioned Malik Neighbors. The chemistry between the young Malik Neighbors and the veteran QB Russell Wilson seems to be strong so far, even if it's very early still. If all goes well, how big of a dynamic duo can they be for the team?
Yeah, look, they did not practice together in the spring. Malik Neighbors was trying to manage and get over a sore toe, a toe injury, which didn't have surgery or anything like that. But they've been on the field and through 4 practices. This is the Giants' 5th practice today. It's their first padded practice. They've been connecting very, very often, and they're always talking to each other. Malik Neighbors has spoken glowingly about Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson has spoke glowingly about Malik Neighbors. So I think Wilson is really going out of his way to make sure that he builds chemistry with Neighbors, and I think Neighbors is excited to have a quarterback there that's willing to give him opportunities to make plays down the field.
I know Brian Dable addressed the media just before you hopped on. What was his message?
Look, I think a lot of talk today was about just being in pads for the first time and how now you can get a better look at your offensive line specifically, especially in the run game. Your defensive line can start running games, which are stunts and twists, where you have guys kind of setting picks for each other on pass rush drills. You can have bull rushes. You can see how offensive linemen anchor. You can do double teams in the run game. Things that you can't do in the spring and in non-padded summer practices, you can do today. But at the same time, you want to make sure, while it's a physical and competitive practice, you don't have any fights or shoving matches or anything like that where guys can get hurt. So be competitive, be physical, but be safe and don't get anyone injured.
John, final question. Jets have their first preseason game against the Packers, I believe, August 9th. Giants are going up against the Bills the same day. Any predictions for those matchups?
Look, I think predicting preseason games is impossible. I think I'll give you a couple broad thoughts. Don't take too much out of preseason games, especially when you have third stringers going against third stringers, and teams don't really scheme for these games. They're not the reality of what a National Football League game is, so don't take too much out of them, except for maybe how an individual player might play on an island. I think you could take something out of that. The Giants will play Jackson Dart a bunch. I think you're going to see him on the field probably for at least a quarter and a half, maybe 2 quarters in that first preseason game. We'll see if Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston go. But I think the Giants are going to try to get Jackson Dart a good amount of time on the field in these exhibition games, because they don't know how much work he's going to get during the year once the season starts. If Russell Wilson plays as well as they hope he does, he's probably not going to see the field. So you want to get him as much work in this preseason as you can, and I think they'll try to do that. So that'll be a highlight for Giant fans tuning into these summer games where you're going to get to see Jackson Dart on the field, where maybe during the year you're not going to see a whole ton of that.
Well, I hope both teams turn things around this year because it has been too long. John Schmeelk, thanks so much for taking the time today.
You're telling me.